And action.
Scene.
Hello, everybody.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. This is Aberration Unattractive, and you are joining us for a session of While We Wait. This is
Because
an
we're waiting.
informal discussion while we wait to hopefully play some games. We'll see how that goes. Tonight of all nights. Hey, Derp.
I rolled a 10.
Ugh, sounds
Pretty
good.
good.
It's average.
Hi.
What's going on?
We're waiting. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm out of beer.
Ooh, that's bad.
Could be worse.
I'm gonna stick with the coffee for now before I move on to the sets.
See, I like to start with beer and then go to coffee.
Hey, so I thought we'd talk about, are we still having fun? A topic that comes across a lot of the subreddits that I follow. DM Academy, D&D. All those different ones, right? So usually it's given as advice for questions people ask. And I actually came across a subreddit by user A Smile on Top. This one from 3 years ago. And I liked what he had to say. He mentioned that, a lot of DMs come on and ask for advice, like I was saying, and that people will say, hey, look, are you and your players still having fun? And they never really like elaborate on that, like he says, it's a good question, but it doesn't really provide an answer. And, he talks about some of the things that those questions might touch on. Like a lot of DMs will ask, should I do this? Or should I do this? Will it break my game? And they're like, are you having fun? Just go with it. Well, if the problem in that case becomes a precedent might get set for your table that may be game breaking later, while it might be cool right now, could be, bad for the future.
Mm. I don't know. That's probably the only issue that I would see with that. Because that is, I don't know. I always thought that's the most important thing is to have fun. It's a game. Play it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely the top priority. And
But like you said, if you're like, I don't know. I don't know what would happen, but something that, like you said, would make a game breaking later that you don't foresee now.
yeah. So, like, I think in that particular case, I think the right answer would be like, talking with the table, saying this like is a really cool narrative moment for us to do this thing. But
Hmm.
if it comes up in the future, it ain't gonna happen. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I suddenly have another bag of holding to put in a bag of holding, and we're gonna create an interdimensional rift. You know what? Bag of holdings have just become so rare. You just can't find them anymore.
I wouldn't know anything about anyone doing that kind of stuff.
But yeah, so like you come to the table with these issues, in the back of your mind. You're in a long running game, but things seem to be like they're drifting, or you don't hate the game, but something seems to be a bit off.
Kinda stagnant.
Yeah, or
You're just kind of going through the motions.
your session is sluggish, or you just show up out of obligation. So you start to wonder if are we still having fun?
This is kind of, I feel like, a continuation from one of the other while we waits we had.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I was like, I'm really kind of setting a pattern here. So we're gonna touch a lot of the things we've already talked about. I guess a lot of these negative things that you run into with playing tabletop games, they all go hand in hand and tie together in a way.
Yeah, it. I feel like a lot of the times, if you're playing, I guess going back to that, if you're playing and you're having fun, it's never really an issue. But when things start to come up, it seems like things that everyone runs into that makes them not have fun are all very similar.
Yeah,
People not being engaged, or just not necessarily not engaged, but not. I don't know where I was going with that. Maybe not being a team player, kind of. I don't know. There's a bunch of things, right, where you just end up not having fun for whatever reason. At that point, everything just kind of falls apart. So it's kind of a very nebulous question, but at the same time, it's kind of like the keystone to the whole thing.
yeah, and
Because what's fun for everyone is different, right? Like if your fun is breaking the game entirely and doing weird stuff, and everyone's having fun with that, then that's okay. But like if your fun is being serious and into role play, and everybody dresses up and gets super into character, and then someone comes in and tries to mess that up, then you're not going to have fun. So it's just different for everybody.
Yeah, and I thought that the questions is kind of nebulous. It's very open ended and huge, right? And to me, like it needs to be reworded to really, I think, answer the question you're really trying to ask, right?
Yeah.
So
It's like the root cause, but it's not really a question that you can answer.
yeah, so like we talked about, this touches on literally everything we've already talked about in other episodes. You can see the change in the vibe, right? When
Mhm.
these type of things are happening. So you got like again burnout with the game master or your players. The story arcs seem to be aimless and disconnected, or you're starting to feel character fatigue, like you don't feel in touch with your character anymore. One of those things we talked about was like if you're not feeling in touch with your character, maybe it's not because you're not having fun, it's because you need to identify what your character's goals are, because maybe they've changed from
Mhm.
when you originally created the character.
Or you just didn't have any goals to begin with.
Yeah. Also, there's say like a tone shift in your game. Like you started out as very silly, and it's kind of moved to an intense situation, or vice versa, and you weren't really prepared for that,
I
right?
think that's fun though. I like when that happens.
I do
You
too.
make like a
Yeah,
joke character and then they
yeah.
just end up becoming super serious.
I think that really works out. Is like you have silly characters in a very intense environment, and
Hmm.
you just kind of, if you can play off of it and bounce off of it, it can really bounce back and forth in the situation. It might be kind of weird the other way around, having an
Yeah.
intense character in a silly situation. I mean, unless that was your goal to begin with, making it silly overall, right? An intense
Yeah.
character in a silly situation is just kind of silly in
If
itself,
you had
right?
Dracula in Willy Wonka world or something, like I think another thing that would cause a lot of people to not have fun is, a lot of people just get started into this stuff and they try and go too big right
Yeah,
off the bat and
yeah,
run
absolutely.
something super long and super, I don't want to say like straightforward as far as like a story goes, but like not really open ended, right? Like they do like a pre-generated campaign or whatever, and they just it's too much to start with, right?
Yeah.
And you could just kind of do a couple games that take 3 or 4 sessions and then they're done, just to get a feel for how people want to play and like what characters they want to play and what classes and races and all that stuff, so they kind of get a feel, and then when everyone kind of figures out what they want to do and they have a better idea, then jump into something big.
Yeah, it reminds
Basically don't
me.
do what I did.
Yeah, it definitely reminds me of a video I saw. I can't remember who did it. One of the big names, Dungeons Dudes, D&D, one of them. I can't remember who, but they talked about like how Wizards of the Coast really failed the community uh,
There's no, yeah, they
by
don't really make any beginner stuff.
yeah. So like everything they release is campaign long term stuff. And that's what this
Hmm.
mindset in D&D is like these are the games we
If
have
your
to
game
run.
doesn't last 30 years, then you're fucking up.
Yeah. And I think that it excelled when they started releasing the more bite-sized stuff like Tales of the Yawning Portal has a bunch of single adventure things that you can run individually or you can run the whole thing. It doesn't matter. You can pick
That's
one
another
and
thing
just run
too
it.
is people don't have time for that, man.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm sure people can find, 1 or 2 weekends a month in some cases, to do it. And some people might just be, once every couple months that they can play. And they don't want to have something that's going to take them at that point like 8 years to finish.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely like when you're getting new players in, it's definitely best to start with a simple one. Start with the beginner's box or go with one of the bite-sized adventures
I'm,
in
sh-
all the
I'm,
little books they've got, or go on DM's Guild and run something.
I'm gonna say,
It'll,
yeah, there's probably a whole subreddit of just like one shots
yeah,
that people post. There's got to be. Like, there's no, this, the community does a better job making stuff than the people who actually make the game or own the game, I guess. That's a different topic.
Yes, one we've had many discussions over the past year about.
That can be another while we wait. We won't get into that.
Oh yeah. So yeah, some signs you want to keep an eye out for. Say it's time to check in. Like I don't think we're quite having as much fun as we think we are. You come to the end of a session, and more often than not, you're saying, "Well, that was okay, I guess."
Yeah.
Or you get a lot more cancellations, flaky
hmm
energy.
That's another thing that kind of goes back to if it takes too long, right? So if you're playing some big campaign thing and you can't play it every week, it's going to feel like it's taking you forever to get,
Mm,
because there's going to be times in sessions where it's just like all talking or like, not
yeah.
very fun. Everyone's, at the store buying stuff or, just administrative stuff basically.
Mm,
And if you have to do like even one of those, if you can only play like I said, like once every month or 2 months, that session's gonna feel like a waste of time.
yeah. One I love keeping an eye out for, which I think I think life is kind of ruined for us, is nobody's engaged outside of the table, like memes and chatter in
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
Discord.
yeah,
I fucking love that shit. Like,
yeah. I see, and I don't have time for that. I would love
see,
to, but I don't. I do not have time.
and I think that's something that we've all kind of run into. Like even myself, I check the Discord every day, but like having time to mentally come up with something shitty and stupid to say that I think
Yeah.
is going to get some attention, and then I think to myself, well, here I am just trying to get attention, so I'll just not do it because that's not
Oh
the
yeah,
type of
no.
person I am.
So I check the Discord multiple times a day
Yeah.
to see if anyone typed anything, but I'm hoping that you guys type something because I'll be in there and I'll be like, man, I don't have time to write anything, but I hope they put something funny in there. So if,
Yeah.
if you put something in there, I see it, but I might not necessarily, say anything back to it.
Yeah. And that's what the girls tell me too. It's like, oh yeah, we saw what you said. We thought it was funny, and we talked back and forth about it, but we never responded in the Discord.
That's usually I'll try and do like an emoji or something at least,
Yeah.
or like I guess you can react to it somehow, right? I don't know. I think
Yeah.
you can. Yeah, you can on Discord.
Along with that, people are quieter at the table or default to meh, whatever.
Yeah.
And of course, you're not looking forward to game night as like you were before, just like if you're
hmm
burned out. So, yeah, some solutions to getting those questions asked, right? Like you want to get in, you want to ask the question, but you don't want to be embarrassed by it or come off sounding weird about it because
hmm
these kind of questions are like I don't know, it's like sitting in a room with a therapist. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
Eventually you'll get there and you'll be like, okay, we're good, but so like I said, like just asking, are we still having fun might not be like
I think it
the
needs to be if you're. It's a good thought to have, but if you're asking other people, it needs to be a little bit more directed.
yeah. So like it might be a good way to like start the conversation. Are we having fun? Are you guys
hmm
having fun? And you can probably gauge their if you're
Yeah.
talking to them face to face or
Oh,
at
it's
least
probably
their
way easier face
voice,
to face.
you can gather how they're actually feeling through the inflection. Like
Mm,
yeah, 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 I'm having fun still. Like you can hear. Well, maybe there's a little more to that we need to dig deeper into,
yeah.
right?
It's like, well, what did we not like about this session or whatever?
Right.
But,
So
I mean, if everyone's
yeah,
having fun, don't. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But
yeah. So I thought to myself like I think the best way to ask that question is to change the question. Like, so what about that question? Do you, do you think you need to frame it in a way to get an answer you're looking for from the person you're talking to? Like, so I thought like if I were going to ask a question of someone like we've been playing a few sessions and I've kind of noticed a change in either the player or the way the character is reacting to the world, I'd be like, go to that person and say, so what is missing for your character in this game, or what does your character want to accomplish, and do you think they're making progress towards that? And if the answer is, no, I don't think they're making any progress, and say, Well, what is the goal, or what do you think would help make guide you into that progress, right?
I think that it might not have been your intention there, but you brought up something kind of what I think might help a lot of people is you don't ask the player the question, you ask the character,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Because a lot of for a lot of people, they play this to, escape, right?
yeah,
It's like the whole thing where it's like, oh, you're talking to a therapist, you're like, hey, my friend is doing this thing. How can they fix it or whatever? But if you ask like, hey, is your character doing the things they want to do?
yeah,
Right? Like how do you think they could better meet their goals, right? And directing it towards that, it might make it easier for people, even if they don't realize it, it might make it easier for people to bring up the things that they're not having fun with or not happy with or wish were different. Because then it feels like they're not the one with the problem, the character is.
hmm
They won't feel they might because they might feel bad like if it's a new DM or something or whatever, they might feel bad bringing it up because they won't hurt their feelings if they're not having fun. But if you're like, hey, what does the character want?
yeah,
Then it might take a little bit of that weight off of them.
definitely, yeah. Like, I think rewording it in that manner really is is a great
Hmm.
way to kind of break the ice and make it less intimidating for
Yeah.
someone who's not having fun. Yeah. Yeah, so as far as that goes, like getting back into the main game, those are, I think, great questions. There's also, the things we talked about when it comes to, like, say characters or players are missing games, or busy, whatever. We need to take a step back from the game, because no one's
Hmm.
having fun, or things, life is happening, right? And so then it becomes, okay, we're going to take a break or change the format. We're going to go to a flashback or a one shot, or we're going to swap DMs for a while and have different characters or whatever.
Yeah.
We're doing a complete big shift. Like, we're going to change the setting, the genre, maybe even the rule set.
I th- I think we're kind of unique in the sense that I don't feel like anything we've done has ever not been fun because of something we've done, and it's like ended up, getting stagnant because we're getting burnout or you're getting burnout DMing or something like that, right? I don't think anything we've played or done has ever been inherently like not fun.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people have had games and stuff they played where it was the game that was not fun and it had not, they were excited to play and they really were looking forward to it, and then it just wasn't fun. But like I said, I feel like we haven't necessarily had to deal with that yet, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, all of our games have been fun. Like, we always run into the standard issues that everyone runs into. But
Hmm.
I think we're really good at talking about it. Even
Yeah.
just I think life gets in the way the most of all
Hmm.
for us. So
It happens.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So also some check-in tips. Like, those are like reset ideas or whatever. But like some check-in tips. Have players like talk about something they've liked or wanted more of when they're playing the game. Like, call it a I guess a vibe round, and go around to each player and have them talk about something they really liked, favorite moments from every session. If you can stay engaged by like talking about at the end of the session,
Mhm.
like what did you enjoy about this session, or what have you enjoyed about the last few sessions,
Yeah.
um, and yeah, being I guess it's a pretty straight question, like, asking the group, as the GM, is there anything in the game that is exciting to you right now, and what in the game feels stale?
Hmm.
I think that one might close off some people depending on your
Uh,
group, but
I think you could kind of see us doing that when we're playing Drakenheim, right? So
yeah,
at first, when we are kind of getting the feel of it, we'd get those off the downtime days or whatever, and we'd really kind of go through it like piece by piece. What store are we going to? What are we buying? And then it got to the point where we're just like, yeah, I'm gonna go buy these things
hmm,
because we don't want to spend. I at least didn't want to spend the time running around all the shops and doing all this stuff. I was,
yeah.
because
Sometimes
that to me,
shopping
some
days
people like
suck.
that, like, oh, we're talking to shopkeepers and stuff. Yeah, but Me personally, like, I don't know, just go fill up my magic bag and get food. I feel like that falls on the DM too, a lot of that weight, because it's like you have to watch and see what parts of your game the players are more like engaged with and what they're interacting with, because you can tell, right?
Yeah.
Like if every time you go into a store, one of the players just gets quiet and then it was kind of like whatever, then it's like, okay, this guy probably doesn't like doing that.
All right, less shopping trips.
Yeah, less shopping trips. Let's I don't know, have him get mugged in the alleyway, get him back, get his head back in the game, and then and it because like I said, some people do like that stuff, some people don't. So you got to balance it, right? So if like you're doing a shopping day, break it up with something like that. Like
Yeah.
have the character who doesn't like shopping get mugged,
Yeah.
or they get kidnapped by a witch or something, and then it's a whole side quest. And while everyone else is shopping, they're trying to escape the witch. That'd be kind of funny. Everyone's just so engrossed in shopping that they like completely miss a character, and they're having their own little adventure, own little one shot.
Yeah, I think one other solution that I sit here and think about is like, maybe your game's getting stale because like you as the GM are getting kind of lost in the sauce with the storyline. You're trying to get it back on
Yeah.
track and you can't quite figure out how to do it. Maybe you don't have enough time during the week to like figure out how to tie in the next big arc that you're trying to go
Hmm.
for, right? So, because like when you're planning out a long term thing, it's really good to have like broad ideas of what you want to happen, but you don't want it to be like very railroady. You want the
Yeah.
players to tell the story up to the next arc, right? So sometimes you have to introduce something into the game to kind of guide them in that
Drive
direction,
it. Yeah.
and maybe you haven't quite figured it out yet. Maybe you need an extra week to plan, right? So, yeah, take a break and don't play that week, or go on quote unquote a season vacation. Like you're between seasons now of your show,
Mhm. Yeah.
so your writer's got to get back on track now. So.
I feel like if you're having issues where you can't figure out as the GM how to get it, back on track without railroading it, I think at that point you could there's a way to like, ask the players things that they want to do and get it you got to get some kind of idea of what they're thinking that they want their character to do. And then if hey, how would you like to get your character to this point? Or, something without giving away the story, obviously. That you can then, you'll have a little bit more information that you don't have to think about that you can kind of weave into your your fabric that is your narrative.
I
That
was
way you don't have to entirely come up with everything yourself. You can be like, hey, what do you think about your character trying to go talk to this guy next session, or do this thing, or go to this town?
Yeah, as you were saying that, I knew that's where you're going with it. Like, I got on the same wavelength there,
Yeah.
and I actually I follow Stephanie Plays Games on YouTube, and she's a rather interesting person to follow. She has a lot of great advice and stuff like that. She talked about that kind of thing, like getting your characters to basically write your campaign for you. Um,
Yeah.
she's a huge nerd into forums and documents and things like that. And but yeah, she talked about she's got a questionnaire to send to players so you can gauge what kind of game they want to play. She talks about you're writing your
That's
setting
probably
and
very helpful if you're playing with new people.
yeah, and that's one of her things is she loves introducing new players to the game. So she says a lot of her games are new players being introduced to D&D. That's her preferred game of choice. Yeah, she's a unique individual, and I like watching her stuff.
I'll
Um,
have to check that out.
but yeah, I think that pretty much covers all the solutions that I can think of, and
I mean, yeah, again, it about wraps it up.
yeah.
Put a fork in it.
So yeah, just as a group, keep in mind that your long-term campaign can hit plateaus, even if it's a pre-written campaign. Sometimes the players don't quite see the big picture enough to be able to move forward. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's broken, it just means that you're off track and you gotta figure out what you gotta do to get back on track.
I think that one benefit of doing like a long running campaign is that you have characters that like you should be invested in, right? They're most likely invested if you've been playing for like a year with the same characters.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it starts to get stagnant, you can do something that has nothing to do with the campaign to get people engaged back into it, right? You can do a one shot with those characters,
Yeah.
and then kind of get people not back on the rails of the story, but back on the rails of the having fun train. Just mix it up, but keep it familiar.
Also, it never hurts to ask out loud, if you got the mess going on, asking everybody, what are we in the mood for now? Getting engaging what
Yeah.
the group's in the mood for. And remembering that tabletop games like these are collaborative stories.
hmm
And so it's okay to evolve or end the game if it's not being fun anymore, right?
Yeah, I think that kind of goes back to what you said about people, the GM getting too lost in the sauce. Even if you're running like a pre-written campaign thing, you should be completely prepared for it not to end the way that it does, right?
So true. Yes.
You should be like, oh, what if, my characters just leave this continent entirely,
There you
right?
go.
Obviously, you can keep, there's ways to keep them from doing that without railroading them, right? That's
Yeah.
just a, kind of a big example, but like they could completely entirely change the like be prepared for your characters to kill the big bad evil guy day one. And
Yeah.
like, well, what are you gonna do then?
Go find another book. Get started on that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, on the final note, it's because this is a collaborative story. It's important to remember that characters aren't the only ones that should be growing. It's also the game and the world around you. Like
hmm
you as a character are supposed to be affecting the world around you. So the game has to change with you. Else, how is it going to be fun? How are your decisions going to be meaningful? Right.
Yeah.
So
Like, what weight is killing Anton gonna have when we finally do it? You know? He's gonna die. I'm telling you, he's gonna die. He has to.
all right. Well, with that, I think that closes out this episode of While We Wait.
We have
Until,
waited.
yeah, we've waited. We will continue to wait, and hopefully we'll see you next week. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.